Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Aliens and UFOs of the Week video. Thought I would mix one of these in here while I'm continuing with your Cryptids and Monsters videos. So several have asked for me, in fact, to do one of these Alien UFOs videos, so I thought what a great way to showcase this unique encounter here. And I'll actually go back and I'll do this series yet again soon, once I finish the Cryptids and Monsters videos, so be on the lookout for that very, very soon. But yes, this encounter is unique in the fact that it has to do with a doctor, one who's considered very reputable, finding an alien spacecraft and then giving a very detailed description from his vantage point inside the spacecraft. It's a one-off item, but still, when I came across this fascinating info, I thought what a great way to share it with everyone here. And it has to do with this. It's known as the 1950 Flying Saucer Encounter with Dr. Botta. So let's go ahead and let's talk about all the fascinating info associated with this very, very unique encounter. So here's what happened. For starters, Dr. Botta, whose full name was Dr. Enrique Caritinudo Botta, was someone that was considered very, very respected within his area. This was someone that was an engineer, an aeronautical engineer, in fact. He was an ex-war pilot. He was someone that was working for a very, very well-known company there in Argentina. And everyone that knew him knew that he wasn't someone that would boast a lot of information just to get attention. He was definitely someone that would, when he stated something, people considered it the truth. That's how very well respected he was within his area. So later on in his life, when he gave this encounter, everyone suddenly took it as gold. That's why that makes it this specific encounter to be very, very interesting. So here's what happened. He stated that in 1950, he encountered a crashed or some kind of UFO spacecraft there on the ground as he was driving to his company. Here's how it happened. So during that time, it was around the evening or so of 1950. I don't have the exact date though, but there he was driving along the highway about 75 miles away from his hotel. He was going from that point over to the company that he was employed as an engineer. In fact, the way I was reading the information is this was more along the lines of the evening. He was probably doing some work on his own, evening / towards the nighttime period, and it was at an area known as the Bahia Blanca. So there he was driving by himself when he noticed off to the side, somewhere just along the grass off the road, what he described as a somewhat large metallic disc-shaped object. This would be something that if you saw it, you probably instantly realize this could be what can be considered a UFO or a flying saucer. So he actually parked his car right then and there. No doubt his analytical mind was thinking that it has to be something else. It can't be a UFO. It has to be something else that he could absolutely just discern as something else. But no, he parked it. He went and took for a few minutes to see what would happen. But when he saw that there was absolutely nothing coming out of the spacecraft, guess what? He decided to get even closer to the object itself. So very, very fascinating, considering that this is a guy who had never seen something like this in his life, once again, all of a sudden deciding to approach it, and then let alone getting to the point where he sees a doorway, or what we considered a doorway, off to the side of it, and then deciding to go inside it as well. I've mentioned about that in some of my other past encounters too, how it seems like some people, they just run away, or they get absolutely solid, frozen in fright, and then others, like this good doctor here, decide to go inside the actual spacecraft. So here's what he stated. By the way, all of this was described not during that time period, but 5 years later, whenever he visited a UFO conference in 1955, he finally decided to relay everything that I'm about to describe here to someone there at that conference. And then I was mentioning earlier, when people heard about this and knew how reputable he was, they took it as 100% solid fact. So yes, this is what he said. Inside the spacecraft, it was considered almost empty, very dark, very empty, but there was one bright red light towards the very top of the dome. And the way he described it was when he went inside, it seemed like either he was adjusting to the darkness or maybe there was more light that was being turned on. But inside, he finally saw what could be described as 4 curved seats, some kind of seats that were there that were just towards the areas, I guess, inside the dome itself. And then the dome as well was grayish. It had the classic metallic look to it. And whatever these seats were, to his surprise, 3 of them were actually occupied with what looked like these 4 feet tall, grayish beings with very tight fitting overalls. Kind of like what you would expect from a bad, cheesy 1950s B science film, the kind that plays like at 2 in the morning on late night channels. That's the kind of stuff that he saw there. These tiny creatures, they were all facing a control panel, whatever their chairs were or whatever they could be described as, were having them face towards these control panels, and he caught glimpses on the control panels of lights, of different types of blinking items, gauges, the kind of stuff, again, that you would picture inside one of those sci-fi type films. And then as he did so, he actually had even more bravery to be able to go up to one of those creatures and then touch what it was. He was able to do so because he suddenly realized everyone inside the spacecraft were dead. Nobody was alive. That's why it immediately came to his mind that he could walk up to the UFO or whatever this was without anybody coming out, and then let alone on the inside, do all of this and nobody was bothering him. But they were dead. Whatever these creatures were, they were absolutely just dead. This, of course, frightened him, and to the much point that he decided to get out of there. Maybe he got that weird feeling on the back of his neck that it was time to go, that his presence was no longer welcome, and so he rushed away from the saucer, got back in his car, and then he sped down the highway. And then when he went to his destination, that's when he told some of the people there, I guess that were either friends or worked with him, he let them know that what he saw, they decided at that point, because it was the evening/night period, that it was going to be way too dark to do anything safe, they decided to do it the next morning. And when they did, they armed themselves. I don't know what kind of weapons they had, but presumably something, maybe even as simple as, let's say, one of those tire gauges or whatever it was. And so they took everything they could and they returned to the exact spot that this Dr. Botta encountered this UFO. But guess what? It was gone. It was absolutely gone. Dr. Botta knew that this was the right area, the right location, but there was nothing there. No visible sign of any kind of spacecraft at that moment. And so all they found, in fact, was the indentations that were associated with the spacecraft. And then, interestingly enough, there were a pile of ashes within the ground itself. Unknown what this ash was, but one of the men actually scooped it up to examine it more. And interestingly enough, the hand started to turn purple, and it stayed that way for several days afterward. And maybe wonder exactly what were these ashes. The first thing that came to mind, just from a human level, you know how we cremate bodies when it comes to someone being dead, and in some cases people either choose to bury them or choose to cremate them. I'm wondering if these ashes were the remnants of these creatures themselves. Maybe when they die, they instantly turn into this type of ash. Well, whatever it was, it stayed with that man in terms of his purple hand for a couple of days. But they looked around the area to see if there was anything else, but they saw nothing. No sign of this UFO, no sign of the other grays, whatever these things were. Nothing at all. It was like it almost never happened, except for one thing. One of them actually decided to look up at the very perfect time, and when they did so, they saw 3 objects right there in the sky, almost as if they were there watching them. They were watching these objects, and these objects in turn were watching them. And the way it was described is as this. The largest of the 3 objects was cigar-shaped, and then the 2 smaller ones were disc-shaped. And this Dr. Botta, he tried to take some pictures, very smart of him, in fact, to have a camera ready for this type of encounter. And he took about 5 pictures of them, but only 2 of them showcased any kind of something. Like it was almost like blurred, vague images. But either way, these objects, whatever they were, the 2 smaller ones seemingly joined the larger cigar-shaped one. It's almost like the 2 of them joined with a larger one to become into one larger object, almost as if they merged together. And then it was it. It was gone. The whatever this was turned a blood red color, and then it just disappeared very, very quickly upwards into the sky. And that was it. Dr. Botta was stating afterward that that was the encounter itself. He went on to describe, though, at the conference a little bit more detail about what he saw or what he felt when he touched the alien itself, whatever that gray was within the craft. He stated that the alien's skin was almost like a rough texture, and he instantly knew, he didn't know like how it was being conveyed to him, but still he knew that whatever it was, this rubbery feel almost made it seem like that's indicated that this creature was dead. So it was probably supposed to be another type of feeling, but otherwise the way it felt now, this rough texture that almost felt rubbery, it was in a good indication that it was dead. Afterward, though, Dr. Botta did encounter something else. His skin, for whatever reason, started to become blistery. He encountered also a high fever after this encounter. Unknown, though, if these were all symptoms associated with whatever he had there or whatever he walked around in within the UFO. But still, that was also something that stood out. And even then, the sunglasses that he had on when he was, remember when he was going up to the UFO, at the time it was evening time or so, he had sunglasses when he was driving originally. He found out later that these sunglasses left an imprint on his skin for at least a little while. So whatever was happening with inside the UFO, it also caused that type of reaction too. So what do you guys think as far as this encounter, the Dr. Botta encounter that he had with this flying saucer / UFO? If anyone has any more info, anything I want to miss, please post those comments below. Anyone from that area, in fact, that South American, Argentina area, if someone is and they know more info about it, or even know where Dr. Botta is today, maybe if he's still alive, then please post those comments below as always. So, all right, everybody, thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.